Ever wondered what goes down during Formula One pre-season testing? Brace yourself for some mind-blowing revelations. From unexpected crashes to record-breaking speeds, the Bahrain International Circuit witnessed it all. So, let's dive into this video today to uncover the most jaw-dropping moments that unfolded on the track and explore all about the crazy things that happened during testing. Day 1. Let's start by talking about Day 1 of pre-testing of the Formula One 2024 season. On the first day of testing at Bahrain International Circuit, Max Verstappen set the pace in both morning and afternoon sessions. He clocked a time of 1m32.548 in the warmer midday weather and later improved to 1m31.344 as the day progressed. Verstappen also covered an impressive distance, completing 2 race distances, just like George Russell from Mercedes. Following Verstappen, McLaren's Lando Norris and Ferrari's Carlos Sainz took the next spots on the timesheets. They took over from their teammates Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc for the afternoon and evening sessions. Daniel Ricciardo secured 4th place for Red Bull Racing, closely matched with Ferrari's performance, likely having a close call with a wing mirror that had come loose from Lance Stroll's Aston Martin. Unfortunately, Haas driver Nico Hülkenberg wasn't as lucky and drove over the loose mirror. In the late afternoon, Pierre Gasly from Alpine narrowly avoided a slow-moving Carlos Sainz at turn 12 and ended up in 5th place, 1.4 seconds behind Verstappen. Lance Stroll and Charles Leclerc followed closely behind in 6th, 1.6 seconds behind Verstappen, and 7th, lagging behind his teammate by 0.6 of a second places. Fernando Alonso secured 8th place overall, with Oscar Piastri, Zhou Guanyu from Kick Sauber, and Logan Sargent from Williams rounding up the top 10, with Guanyu significantly slower than Verstappen by 2.5 seconds. However, Sargent faced disruptions during his preparations due to a spin at turn 9 and a suspected driveshaft issue. George Russell represented Mercedes and finished in 12th place, followed by Yuki Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas, Alex Albon, and Esteban Ocon. Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg from Haas brought up the rear in 17th and 18th positions. Sergio Perez and Lewis Hamilton missed the first day's action as their teammates took over driving duties, so they were scheduled to begin their pre-season testing on Thursday. Carlos Sainz finished in 3rd place, edging out Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly, who rounded out the top 5. After Max Verstappen dominated the first day of testing in Sakir, Carlos Sainz took the lead on the second day, being 0.7 seconds faster than Max's teammate Sergio Perez. Sainz's impressive performance came while using the softer C4 tyre, which is supposed to be faster than the medium C3 tyre used by Perez. This performance hinted that Red Bull might not have as big of an advantage as initially thought. Driving for Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton finished 3rd, trailing behind Red Bull by about 0.4 seconds. Hamilton, like Perez, participated in both sessions on Thursday after skipping Wednesday's testing. Day 2, let's come to the second day of pre-testing. On the second morning of the F1 pre-season test in Bahrain, Charles Leclerc put Ferrari at the top of the timesheets. However, the session was cut short due to a red flag caused by Leclerc running over a drain cover at turn 11. He hit a loose drain cover, forcing Ferrari to fix the floor of their SF24 car. The session didn't resume, but they added an extra hour to the afternoon session to make up for lost time. Despite the interruption, McLaren's Oscar Piastri managed to secure the second fastest time, followed by Logan Sargent from Williams and Sergio Perez from Red Bull, who faced brake issues early on. As said, Sergio Perez, who had a brake issue earlier, continued driving the Red Bull RB20 instead of Max Verstappen. Lance Stroll from Aston Martin improved his time dramatically, moving to 4th place. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton made his test debut with Mercedes and quickly jumped to 2nd place. In the afternoon session, Carlos Sainz of Ferrari set an impressive lap time of 1:31.8 and 8.56s, initially putting him in 2nd place. Shortly after, he pushed even harder, shaving off half a second from his time to snatch the lead from his teammate Charles Leclerc with a lap time of 1:31.97. Sainz continued to impress by switching to the softer C4 tyres, allowing him to clock even faster times. He posted a 1:30.6686s and then further improved to 1:30.424s, solidifying his position ahead of McLaren's Lando Norris. However, there was a moment of concern for Sergio Perez of Red Bull as his car briefly stopped after a long stint on hard tyres. Fortunately, he managed to make it back to the garage without assistance. Meanwhile, Sainz continued to dominate, becoming the first driver to break the 1:30 barrier with a blazing lap of 1:29.99121s on the same C4 compound. This tyre, softer than those used in the upcoming Grand Prix, allowed for even faster speeds. Lewis Hamilton of Mercedes climbed to second place with a lap time of 1:31.66s on C3 tyres, only to be surpassed by Perez in the final hour. Perez, who also completed the most laps at 1:29, steadily improved his time to 1:30.79s on C3 tyres. In the afternoon, Sergio Perez and Lewis Hamilton surpassed McLaren's Lando Norris, who faced issues with his car's rear and missed an hour of running. Daniel Ricciardo secured fifth place for RB on C4 tyres, followed by Charles Leclerc, Lance Stroll of Aston Martin, and Esteban Ocon from Alpine. Moreover, as we mentioned, Valtteri Bottas from Sauber and McLaren's Oscar Piastri, who set his time in the morning, completed the top 10. Logan Sargent of Williams completed a full day of running and secured the 11th fastest time. Fernando Alonso trailed Leclerc by 1.4 seconds. Lewis Hamilton followed closely for Mercedes, with Zhou Guanyu from Stake F1, Pierre Gasly from Alpine, and Nico Hülkenberg from Haas completing the top positions. But also, Fernando Alonso from Aston, Zhou Guanyu from Sauber, and Pierre Gasly from Alpine faced limitations, completing less than 40 laps each in the morning session. At the bottom of the timesheets, Haas drivers Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg remained, along with Yuki Tsunoda from RB, who was the slowest among the 17 runners. In contrast to the morning, the afternoon session proceeded smoothly without any significant incidents. However, the session was briefly halted near the end due to planned system checks by race control, leading to a red flag. The pre-season testing for Formula One will conclude on Friday with the third and final day of testing. Following that, the 2024 season will kick off at the same venue next week, Day 3. Charles Leclerc ended the third and final day of pre-season testing at the Bahrain International Circuit by setting the fastest lap time. Driving for Ferrari, he recorded a lap of 1 minute and 30.222 seconds using the C5 Pirelli tyres. Leclerc's performance put him just 0.04 of a second ahead of George Russell, who finished second on the timesheets. The day's proceedings followed a slightly different schedule compared to previous days at the Bahrain circuit. Early in the Friday morning session, Sergio Perez encountered a drain area on the track, prompting the deployment of red flags for track repairs. Following this interruption, it was decided that the session would continue without a break for lunch. Once the session resumed at 11:45 local time, teams and drivers returned to the track to continue their testing programs. They had plenty of tasks to complete before the day concluded at 19 local time. Most teams had to manage driver changes throughout the session, except for Williams, who ran Alex Albon for the entire day. As the day progressed, temperatures dropped, and track conditions became more similar to those expected during the Bahrain Grand Prix, which will take place in the evening. Despite the changing conditions, Charles Leclerc maintained his position at the top of the timing sheets with his earlier lap time. He was followed by George Russell and Zhou Guanyu, with all three drivers continuing to push as the track conditions improved. Max Verstappen finished the day in fourth place. Taking over from Sergio Perez, Verstappen quickly adapted to the conditions, setting fast times early on and completing a total of 66 laps by the end of the session. RB's Yuki Tsunoda secured fifth place, capping off his team's impressive performance in testing. His teammate Daniel Ricciardo completed a race simulation earlier in the day and managed to rack up 70 laps. Having the car to himself for the entire day, Alex Albon logged the most mileage with an impressive total of 121 laps. He finished Friday in sixth place on the timesheets for Williams. Oscar Piastri claimed 7th place, with McLaren forced to cut short their morning session due to a clutch issue affecting Lando Norris. This prompted them to conduct their driver swap earlier than planned. Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez completed the top 10 as the final day of testing concluded. Now the teams will analyze the gathered data in preparation for the upcoming season, with the Bahrain Grand Prix set to kick off from February 29th to March 2nd. So what do you think of the things that happened during Formula One testing? Comment below and subscribe for more.